Here with HBO's Max Kellerman and ESPN's Max Kellerman. Max, here we are for Bernard Hopkins and Sergay Kovalev's fight weekend. How do you feel going into this fight? Is Hopkins going to pull off another miracle at 49?
Well, I mean, at a certain point, that's what you have to call them, is miracles, because the human body, I don't care what universe you're from, what galaxy you're from, how alien you are, at a certain point, the body simply is not going to respond the same way that it did when you're younger. Hopkins is already, you know, Archie Moore and George Foreman, what they did at the age of 45 was like 2 standard deviations more than any fighter had ever done at an older age. And Hopkins at this point is like 2 standard deviations past that, maybe more, because as you get older, each year is a bigger deal. He is attempting to break his own record for having forget about belts and everything, for having the most significant win at that age in the history of boxing. And this ain't Tavares Cloud. Cloud's a nice fighter.
Right.
Kovalev is destroying everybody they're putting in front of him. And Hopkins can say, oh, they're setups, they're this, they're that. Okay, fine, they haven't been the best fighters in the world. They haven't all been the worst either, and no one's giving them any competition. So for Hopkins to win, and he got offended when I talked about what a huge accomplishment it would be.
Yeah.
It's not that he needs it to validate his greatness, but you know, when I asked him where would it rank, he told me, you know, it's like asking Michael Jordan which one of his 6 rings he likes the most. Well, okay, Bernard, but if Jordan would have got a 7th ring with the Wizards when he was an old man, he'd be considered even better than he is, right? And this would be, to my mind, given his age and the opposition, the most incredible win of his career if he could pull it off.
Is what he's doing more impressive than what George Foreman did also, because Foreman was able to kind of luck out and land a big punch if all else went to hell?
That wasn't luck. Foreman
luck.
moved him in that direction with those hooks to the body and everything. But I know what you mean. Foreman was a pure puncher who could, and also as a heavyweight, could come in with a size advantage, you know, which Hopkins can't do.
Right.
Yes, it would be one of them. And look, of course, conditions have to be right. So Kovalev is such a devastating puncher, he hasn't been past 8 rounds. If Hopkins can take him late, what happens? Kovalev cuts easily. Hopkins has been known to cut fighters with punches and other things. So you know, you see, it's a kind of thing where people will say, well, in retrospect, yes, Kovalev was right for Hopkins and he could win the fight. Yeah, okay, fine. No one's perfect. Everyone has flaws you can take advantage of. Why isn't any other 49, almost, he's closer to 50 than 49, 2 months shy of his 50th birthday. Why couldn't any of the other 20 and 30-somethings do that, let alone 40 and almost 50-somethings? It would be an amazing accomplishment if he did it, and you could see there are reasons to think he can. On the other hand, there are also reasons to think he can't. That if he got knocked down by Pascal, and I know Pascal's more awkward, so it's harder to defend against a punch like the kind Pascal throws versus the more traditional punches that Kovalev throws for a schooled boxer like Hopkins. But still, Pascal knocked him down, and it wasn't a balance shot. It was a, oh my God, Hopkins just lost control of his legs shot.
Yeah.
And Kovalev hits better than Pascal, and he's a better fighter than Pascal. So you got to tip your cap to Hopkins. Whatever he thinks he sees, whatever vulnerabilities, he has to know that he's also taking a real risk.
Would it be fair to say that Hopkins has never lost to a guy with Kovalev's strengths, though, the power and the aggressiveness?
Right. No, on paper, Kovalev has the kind of style, Trinidad, Pavlik, a devastating knockout artist who's very basic, fundamentally sound in certain ways, but in other ways just very basic. And so Hopkins figures out the formula, rinse and repeat. This guy can adapt, Hopkins can. Again, he fought Trinidad when he was, you know,
2001.
So he was in his late 30s.
36.
Mid-late 30s, and that was an amazing accomplishment then. Pavlik in his early 40s. Cloud is not on that level. And Shumanov, these guys, it's not the same thing. The other Pavlik and Trinidad were much better fighters. Kovalev is more similar to Trinidad or Pavlik than anyone else he's fought.
Right.
But Hopkins is much older. And also, when you are, how old was he when he fought Pavlik?
43.
43, right. I'll say 42. 43 years old. The difference between 43 and 44, that year, is not the same thing as 25 to 26.
Right.
That you know, it gets harder and harder the older you get. So 49, 6, almost 7 years later, it's not the same thing.
Yes.
It's now a different beast, even if on paper there are a lot of similarities between the Trinidad Pavlik, of Pavliks of the world, and Kovalev. But it'd be a more impressive accomplishment at his age if he could do it.
Bernard even admits not only is he not the fighter he was at 35, he's not in terms of skills, or not skills, speed,
talent,
athletic gifts. He's not the fighter he was when he was 45.
Of course.
So my last question for you, Max, finish it up, is just moving on a couple weeks ahead in the future with Algieri and Pacquiao. Is Algieri being undersold? I talked to all the experts like yourself, and no one's giving him a chance.
Well, if you look throughout the history of boxing,
yes,
and anyone who's interested in boxing history, it kind of begins in people's imaginations with James J. Corbett upsetting John L. Sullivan for the heavyweight title. Now you're going from the Marquis of Queensberry to from the London prize ring rules to the Marquis of Queensberry rules. Gloves not bare-fisted. It changed then. And what else changed in terms of the narrative of boxing history? John L. Sullivan more the brute force guy, and Corbett more the scientist. And so there's this sense, I think, with people that happens. Like these older dominant champions, they age and they can be upset by these scientist-type fighters.
Yes.
There are almost no examples of it in the history of boxing. I had that sense until I started thinking about this fight too, and I said, well, okay, but Braddock Bear, I guess, Clay Liston, there are a couple of examples, but Ali could knock guys out. Algieri doesn't knock guys out.
Yes.
Bear wasn't really a great dominant fighter. He was just a big, strong guy who came around at the right time. There are so few examples of fading dominant fighters upset by light punchers. Jimmy Young and George Foreman-ish, and most of the examples are heavyweights. Very few examples of it happening in the lighter weight division. So I think we all recognize what's special about Algieri. He has some special stuff inside, helped him beat Provodnikov, and he has skills. But who has more special stuff than Tim Bradley? And that didn't help him against Pacquiao.
The intangibles.
All the intangibles, the heart, the will to win, the determination, that's what makes Tim Bradley what he is more than anything.
Yeah.
And in the end, Pacquiao routed him. I thought in both fights, but in the rematch, certainly. So if that stuff inside Bradley doesn't help him, and Bradley's not a big puncher, but better one than Algieri, he's physically stronger than Algieri, what's Algieri going to do? I think people are thinking along those lines. On the other hand, if you see Algieri come out early in that fight, first round, and land that long, stiff jab, and do what he did to Provodnikov in the sense that he knocked Provodnikov's head back. Jab has enough snap to knock the head back. What that does is, even if you're not a big puncher, so you think, well, what's to stop the other guy from just giving him the bum's rush and knocking him out?
Right.
When your head snaps back, you're automatically, to get back on balance, you have no choice. Your back foot goes back to get back on balance. It's involuntary. You're not going to get knocked down from a jab. And when that space is created, Algieri moves. And if you see him do that in the first round, snap Pacquiao's head with a jab and get out, he has a chance.
So you're not like the majority of experts. You do actually give Algieri a shot.
Not a great one.
Okay.
But that's what I'm looking for early in the fight. If I see that jab land on Pacquiao, Pacquiao's head goes back, he takes that back step to get back on balance, and Algieri's out of there, then I think Algieri has a chance. I think you're going to know from the first round.
Max, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
As always, amazing analyst. Thank you so much.
Good talking.
Good talking to you.